Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez, and to Rey Network, why do the Superman movies matter? Well, for starters, it made us believe a man could fly. And let's start by going in order. First was Superman the movie. The Salkind brothers ended up producing it, and they hired Richard Donner, who's coming out of the success of The Omen in the mid 70s, and he ended up casting big actors to give it gravitas and to really show that this movie was going to be serious in its work. So he hired Marlon Brando as Jor-El, Superman's father. Marlon Brando was in classics like On the Waterfront and The Godfather. And then he ended up getting Gene Hackman, from that time was a very serious actor, to be in such a movie based on a comic strip. He was in French Connection. And then he ended up casting Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, and then Christopher Reeve as Superman, who wasn't a big star at the time. He was only in a film called Somewhere in Time before that, and this was like his first major big role as Superman, Kal-El. Anyway, Richard Donner ended up shooting Superman the movie simultaneously at the same time. Not back to back, not with a couple of years in between, at the same time before he ended up leaving the project in Superman 2. And Superman the movie is a classic, and it's a structure that's been followed in later on superhero incarnations. I think without Superman the movie, you would never have had the sequels. You would never have had other movies in the genre, even if it took a little bit over 10 years with Batman 1989. You wouldn't have had Batman 1989 and the other movies that followed after without Superman the movie. It was not only based on a comic book, but it was taken very seriously. It took the material very seriously. Without it, you wouldn't have had stuff like Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan followed the formula of getting a lesser-known actor like Christian Bale and then getting major actors to be the supporting characters, much like Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando in Superman the movie, and Glenn Ford as Jonathan Kent. So you see the influence that Superman the movie has had. Christopher Reeve does such a fantastic job. There's been other actors who played Superman before on radio and television, but Christopher Reeve was the first to really treat Clark Kent and Superman as two totally different people. He became two totally different people, and not only did he make you buy that a man could fly, but that Clark Kent and Superman were two totally different people. You would not think that they're the same person just by the way he acted. Said swell, crouched, slouched, different things like that. And Margot Kidder was fantastic as Lois Lane. She's tough as nails and just all around sassy, but also a great character, and really makes Lois Lane her own. And other actresses have really followed suit after Margot Kidder's interpretation of Lois Lane. She wasn't just like, I'm just a damsel in distress. She was her own person as a journalist. Gene Hackman really brought a lot of fun and just all-around gravitas to the movie as Lex Luthor. There's a lot of good humor between him and Ned Beatty as Otis. He's like, Mr. Luthor, and then Otisburg. That stuff's good. And then Miss Tessmacher. He was a mad scientist in the comics before, and this is what really helped shape Lex later on in the comics as that kind of like smart, calculative business type. This Lex Luthor really shaped what was to come for the character in both film and comics. The opening's great. John Williams' score, wow, the most iconic Superman score, even to this day. Starts with Planet Krypton and introduced, and then just like the opening credits, it's like dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. See the Superman shills like dun 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 dun, and then it's just like dun 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 dun. Whole overture is fantastic, the most iconic theme. You want to get up and fly if you heard that theme. John Williams' score is so superb. It's along his great scores from other films like Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. It is iconic. You think of Superman every time you hear that theme. Favorite moments. The scene with him and Jonathan Kent is very sad, but I just love that quote where it's just like, you were sent here for a reason, son. I don't know what reason, whose reason, but you just owe it to yourself to find out what that reason is. And it's such a bittersweet moment when he dies of a heart attack at the beginning. A great character moment for Superman because it shows that with all his abilities, there's still things that are out of his control. I love it when he first dresses up as Superman. Uh, he looks at the phone booth. There's a nice little bit of humor there, and it's just like, "Whoa, that's a bad outfit. Woo!" And then he like saves Lois, and he's just like, "I got you," and she's like, "You got me. Who's got you?" Great moment. I love it when he flies out of the Forces of Solitude. Wow, Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner really made you believe a man could fly, and just the way he acted. They were on strings. They had different methods of making him fly. He was on boards, wires, and they used a projector. Just different methods to make him fly. And it was untested at that time. They never done anything to that level. This was the first time we actually saw a man physically fly. And even to today's standards, it still stands up pretty well, even if it does look like it's from the 1970s, I feel. That scene where he flies, he just like walks and then he just like turns and flies off the camera. It's just amazing, and it's all practical. And then him saving Lois. Now, it is unrealistic to science now, but it's still amazing. I just love that scene where it has Lois and she's like dead. She basically was buried underground with her car when the earthquake hit. And I just love that moment in Christopher Reeve's acting. It's the best Superman moment. And it really is paid off to the scene of him not being able to save Jonathan Kent. Of all those abilities, he can't save him. And the same thing happens with Lois, and I just love it. I just love his acting. He's like, no, 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 no. And then just screams and flies upwards. It's like, ah. You just hear it echo over the earth. And then Jor-El's like, it is forbidden. And then Superman's just like, I don't care. And he spins the world backwards. Crazy moment, but I just love everything about it. Good ending. Superman the movie is not only one of the best superhero films, it still is, in my opinion, the best Superman film and one of the best origin films. It was a template for what was to come decades later. Now, it took a while for Batman to hit, but really, Superman was a golden standard of like what can happen when comic book material is taken seriously, and what can it be when it's turned into film, in the art form of film. What can comic book stories be with superheroes taken seriously? And you see so many studios and films do that now after Superman the movie. And it was just a perfect time. It was a bit lighter after the dark era of anti-heroes in the Vietnam War. And it was nice seeing like a Superman and then just someone who stood for truth, justice, in the American way. Superman 2, now pretty much after Superman the movie, Richard Donner was rushed in production and they needed to put an ending to Superman 1. They were losing money, so they released Superman, and the Salkinder brothers fired Richard Donner, so he left. So Richard Lester took over the project. Richard Donner shot 75% of it, and Superman 2, both the original, directed by Richard Lester, and the Richard Donner cut, which was the footage that was cut out of the original Superman 2, with some test footage along. Golden standard, like the first movie, for superhero sequels. Much more is explored of the Superman character. You get to see more with him and Lois Lane, and then ultimately, why does he have to be Superman, and him dealing with his powers and living on. Can he continue living on as Superman or not? And that's just a perfect template for a sequel. And also, you need to make it bigger and badder, and that's when you have the three Kryptonians with Terrence Stamp's General Zod. I love General Zod. It's like, kneel before Zod. You never seen him face three Kryptonians, and I thought that was such a good idea for the sequel. The first time we saw him face the intellect of Lex Luthor, and then just three Kryptonians, three Supermen. What is that going to be like? How can he take them on? With him dealing with his powers, whether it's with his mom in the Richard Lester version or his father in the Richard Donner cut, you see the influence it's had on other sequels. For instance, I think of Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, and you see Spider-Man dealing with his powers and whether or not he should be Spider-Man or not. You can see parallels to that, and then Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent wanting to be a human instead of a Kryptonian, wanting to live a normal life with Lois, and then the consequences of that, and what he must do to become a hero, who he's meant to be, as Superman. And that brings good questions of like, can a hero have a normal life? And what are the consequences of having one and not having one? And you can tell the influences that other movie sequels have taken upon that. So there's just a lot of good stuff you see in Superman 2 that I felt influenced other superhero sequels and what the golden standard should be, just like the original. We get to Superman 3. Now, this one gets a little bit more campy. Richard Pryor's great in it, all the humor stuff. I mean, the Richard Pryor scenes could be a movie in itself. Just think of the cowboy hat scene. Oh my god, it's just hysterical. You finally get another villain other than Lex Luthor. You get to see him in Smallville. Annette O'Toole plays Lana Lang. Annette O'Toole later on plays Martha Kent in the TV series Smallville. So that's kind of cool there. Richard Pryor pretty much made synthetic kryptonite, which is an equivalent to red kryptonite, and made Superman turn evil. And you get to see Christopher Reeve in a whole new light playing evil Superman. So many things have been inspired by that. Spider-Man 3, where you get to see a darker version of Peter Parker. Supergirl even paid homage to it, where it's just the peanut scene at the bar is just flicking peanuts, breaking bottles and stuff, just doing crazy stuff. It's just like, shows us a dangerous side of Superman. There's this all-American God out there, and what happens if he's evil and doesn't share our values? And it really gets to explore that in a way, while also having more fun in camp. Oh my God, who could forget the junkyard scene where it's good Superman versus bad Superman, and they fight? Wow. Best moment of the entire movie. You say whatever you will about Superman 3 compared to 1 and 2, but that junkyard scene is worth price of admission alone. He's like, come on, do it. And he's like fighting, and both of them fighting's great. And then when he finally defeats the evil Superman, it vanishes, and then he's there, and then just Christopher Reeve looks up, and then it's just like, shirt. Great moment there. Then we get to Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Good news is, Gene Hackman's back with Alan from 2.5 Men. Yes, John Cryer plays Lex's nephew. And it has Nuclear Man, a guy with a crazy 80s mullet and long fingernails, Superman powers, and a little bit more spandex. There's some crazy fights in this, but despite everything, whether you think it's good or bad quality, Superman, The Quest for Peace is just awesome fun. You don't have to take it too seriously, but it also provides a good theme about the quest for peace, of ridding the world of nuclear weapons. And this was especially a deep topic back then in the 80s during the Cold War. You just never knew when nuclear war was imminent, you know? And it was strong having a message of, like, what if there was a Superman and he could basically rid the world of nuclear weapons? What would the world be like when there was actually a quest for peace initiated? And that's what I like about Superman 4. Despite all the other fun stuff and crazy stuff they throw in there, it has a strong central message and of what this character could do. Overall, these films, why are they important? Well, I feel like they're not only good Superman films, they cover different parts, whether it's serious, fun, or campy, or just terrible. But most of all, it shows us what happens when superhero films are taken seriously. It was a first attempt. There's a lot of fun and camp. It embodied everything in the comics while adding something extra that made it cinematic for film. And that's what I love about these films. Say what you will about them, they're all enjoyable. And Christopher Reeve, he's not just an actor who plays Superman in the long history and mythos of the character. Christopher Reeve is Superman. These films are a precursor to the superhero films now in a genre that is going more stronger today than ever before. And I felt some of it is because of the success of these films. Without Superman, I feel like you never would have had the Batman films attempted, the Marvel films of Blade, Spider-Man, X-Men, different stuff, all the superhero films, Superman getting rebooted. I think it's all thanks to this set of films. The first time we ever had a comic book attempted to a live action motion picture and taken seriously. Somebody actually trying to make a serious attempt of adapting this comic book character that has lived so long, and it's just Americana, peanut butter and jelly, whatever. Superman is Americana, peanut butter and jelly, Coca-Cola. Superman's just everything America, and it's just great. If you haven't checked out these films, I would highly recommend them. But whether you have or haven't seen these films, either way, this Labor Day weekend, stand for truth, justice, and the American way on Rey Network.